Hi, everybody. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I see a lot of times with divorce. And that is when someone in the relationship has been either verbally or emotionally or sometimes even physically abused, they have a tendency to start to get stronger through the divorce, which is a good thing. But sometimes they let it lash out inappropriately. And what I mean by that is they've had years and years and years of being suppressed, being oppressed, being abused. And then throughout the divorce, what ends up happening is the abuser is the one that ends up looking in control to the courts, to the family court systems, to the attorneys. And it's the victim who then tends to over assert him or herself and become more aggressive, want more things, be more demanding, and really look more like the ass as opposed to the victim. And the reason this is because it's like when a pot of water is all of a sudden boiling, it takes time to get that boil going, and then it just like boils and boils and boils. And it's at some point, you just cannot stop it. It just continues to boil everywhere. Eventually, once the behavior is contained a little bit or monitored a little bit, that person won't continue to be that outrageous. They'll kind of go back to the 90-degree angle as opposed to the 180 from where they were. Um, but that's why it's very important during the divorce process to get with someone that you trust, whether it's your lawyer or a therapist or a friend, to let you know what could be deemed as inappropriate behavior in court or with other attorneys or with your own attorney, even. Because if you all of a sudden become super aggressive, then all of your arguments that you're making and all of the things that you want to assert, whether it's with respect to money or your children, could then be seen as too hostile or too much or too aggressive. Meanwhile, the abuser is the one sitting there calmly, usually with that narcissistic tendency of being very charming and the one in control, and then it's the victim who's the one that looks out of control. So before you get to that state and that place, you want to make sure that you are mentally and emotionally prepared to the point of knowing yourself, being very aware, being appropriate, asking the right questions, doing the right things, saying less as opposed to more, but still asserting what you want, asserting what your outcome, your desired outcome will be or you want to be, especially when it comes to custody and parenting time and the division of assets and any type of alimony if you're entitled to that in your state. So, and I say all this not to, shame anybody, but just to make you aware that sometimes this does come across. And when you end up becoming like that and you get your day in court and you go to court and the judge sees you, first impressions are very, very important, especially in an arena where they don't know you, they don't know your history. And a lot of times, let's face it, the courts aren't prepared. They don't read all your briefs. They don't know what's going on in your case. And that's why it's super important to, first of all, have a lawyer who's effective and knows how to write effective motions and briefs, mediation summaries, and things like that, so that your story is told effectively and appropriately. And if you have to be forced to go to alternative dispute resolution, whether that's mediation or arbitration or facilitation or some outside means to settle your case outside of court, outside of a trial, for instance, then you want to make sure you get with an appropriate mediator or facilitator. You choose it with your lawyer. You choose one that you feel could be very fair and impartial. And then you make sure your lawyer writes an effective summary to establish your points. And you want to make sure you're calm, cool, and collected. You don't want to go in all guns a blazing because you are going to look like the fool. You're going to look like the inappropriate one, even though your lawyer knows your history or should. You know your history, but that's not the appropriate forum to get back at your ex in terms of the way you are behaving. You want to make sure you're composed, calm, cool, collected, and that your points are getting across very elegantly with a polished edge, not anything too harsh. And you can usually get your way in those situations when you kill them with kindness or you behave, you take the high road in your behavior, not saying be a doormat. I'm saying you don't lash out. Even if the other side lashes out, you remain cool, calm, and collected. Even when you're not being seen in court, let's just say you have relationships with your soon to be ex partner because you are dealing with your children or a business or both and you still need to communicate with them. You want to communicate that with them in the best possible light. I have a hand towel in my kitchen that basically says, dance like no one's watching, but when you text an email, make sure you do so in a way that a court will see it or a judge will see it because that's true. And also on social media, you don't want to put anything disparaging on social media. You don't want to disparage your soon to be ex. You don't want to disparage anything about their case. You don't want to disparage their family. You want to take the high road at all times. Why? Because the optics are on you too. The more you demean the other person, the more the court or the mediator or whomever is deciding your case will look unfavorably on you. That's not going to behoove you in the long run. So, no matter how hurt you are, no matter how much you want to get back at your ex, no matter how much you are just hurting and in so much pain, you have to remember to take the high road because your children are always watching and you know that you can handle this. This shows your value. And even if you feel like you're just dying inside, fake it till you make it. Figure it out. Rely on other things and other people to get your strength from. And then when you appear in court or you appear in a meeting where you have to settle some terms or see your ex, make sure you do it with dignity because at the end of the day, that's sovereignty. That's what you are. You are that sovereign being who knows your worth, who knows you deserve better and more, and you're going to get it, but you still have to fake it till you make it until you get there. Okay. So, divorce is very hard, especially if you don't want the divorce or you're not ready for it or it's a surprise or you're just ticked off, but you really just don't want to be there for all sorts of things and all reasons leading up to it. Remember, you have to behave like the classy one. You have to maintain composure because this is your life and your reputation. No one else's. And the courts and the lawyers and these people that are complete strangers that know nothing about you don't really care about anything other than getting you the result you deserve. If a judge sees your case for the very first time, they don't know much about you or your case. And frankly, they see thousands of yous. They see thousands of cases. They see worse, they see better, they see all sorts of things. And your case is not special to them. So you have to be the special one. You have to show up the way you want to be treated. So be that version of yourself. Get that respect by being respectful of yourself. And only then will the facts play out the way you want them to. Because otherwise, if you show up like the hothead, if you show up like the crazy one, even though you were the victim, you're going to not have the result that you want. They're going to say, nope, she's the narcissist or he's the narcissist when truly you weren't. You're the victim. So I hope that makes sense, everybody. I hope you can truly understand what I'm saying here because it's super important. Because if you do not get a hold of your own behavior and be the sovereign being that I know you can be, then your results will not be what you want. I don't care how right you are. I don't care how in the wrong the other person might be or perceived to be by you. Everything is perspection. Everything is perception and perspective. So the court, remember, has their eyes on you too. And they're judging you just as much as they're judging the other person. Just as much as you might be judging the other person, they're judging you too. So be mindful of that. And if you need support, always feel free to call me. I'm happy to meet with you. I can sort through your case and the facts, and we can figure out the best strategy. I can help you pose certain questions the right way to your lawyer. I can even help you draft those really hard emails or communications to your soon-to-be ex because it's difficult. When you have high emotion, it's hard to be that composed person, but you have to set aside emotion when dealing with these situations because you need to make great decisions for yourself and your family for the long term. The divorce is a very finite period of time. I want you to survive and thrive well after the divorce is over. And in order to do that, you have to get the best result possible. And getting the best result possible when you're in such a high emotional state is a challenging one, but it can be done. So just remember that. You have to be sovereign, you have to be empowered, you have to be your best self, even if you're faking it. Okay. Thanks, guys. I hope that helped, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.